The Manila Exchange. A Frank Murray investigation. Season 3, Episode 4. Manila hits you before you are ready for it. Most cities ease you in an airport, a highway, the gradual accumulation of buildings and noise that tells you where you are. Manila does not do that. Manila starts at the gate. The heat is the first thing. Even at the jetway, tropical weight pressing through the air-conditioned sleeve like the city is already impatient to introduce itself. Then the noise, then the smell, diesel and rain, and something floral underneath it that you cannot quite identify, sweet and green, and alive in a way that cities in cold climates never quite manage. We had come from Bangkok, where we had spent 72 hours working a pharmaceutical distribution network that Pemberton's people had been using to fund the regional Chrysalis operations. That had gone well. In a way that things go well when you find evidence without getting shot at, which I was beginning to appreciate more than I used to. The Bangkok operation had added 3 more names to the international arrest warrants and frozen 2 more shell company accounts. And Torres had called it a significant success in a measured tone he reserved for things he actually considered significant. Then Miles had found Manila, not a facility this time. Something different. The Chrysalis network's money moved through Manila, the way water moves through a delta, in dozens of small channels, each one innocent-looking, each one feeding the whole. Miles had been tracing the financial architecture for 3 weeks, following the threads that the Bangkok operation had loosened, and what he had found was a clearinghouse. A man named Eduardo Villanueva, who sat in the middle of it all, processing payments and moving funds, and knowing exactly what he was part of, and who had been doing it for 2.5 years. The question was whether Eduardo Villanueva was afraid enough of us to be useful, or afraid enough of Pemberton's people to be dangerous. That was the question Miles could not answer from Culver City. That was the kind of question you had to go to Manila to find out. The woman from the National Bureau of Investigation was waiting for us at baggage claim. She was in her late 30s, small and precisely dressed, with a posture that suggested she had been standing in airports for long enough to do it without looking like she was waiting. She had a tablet with our names on it that she lowered before we were fully through the doors, which told me she had spotted us before we had spotted her, which told me something about her professional habits. "Murray," she said. Not a question. "Agent Reyes, Special Crimes Division." She shook Sarah's hand first, then mine, with the brisk efficiency of someone who had decided in advance how this introduction was going to go. "Torres told me you do not like being kept waiting. Neither do I. Cars outside. He told you that?" I said, "He told me you were useful, stubborn, and that your wife was the more dangerous of the 2 of you," she said. He did not say it in those exact words. Sarah glanced at me with the expression of someone filing information away. "Special Agent Isabel Reyes," I said. "How long have you been at the FBI?" 11 years, she said, moving toward the exit with the practiced walk of someone who knew exactly where every door was. Financial crimes for the first 7. Special crimes for 4. I was assigned to this case 6 weeks ago when the Bureau received intelligence about unusual financial activity connected to foreign pharmaceutical entities. She pushed through the glass doors into the full weight of Manila afternoon heat. I have been waiting 6 weeks to talk to someone who can tell me what the money was for. The car was a dark sedan with government plates, and a driver who had a particular quality of professional invisibility that the best drivers cultivate, present but unregistered. We got in. "Chrysalis," I said. Reyes looked at me. "Tell me everything." I did. It took the 45 minutes from Ninoy Aquino International to the NBI offices in Taft Avenue, and Reyes listened the way good investigators listen, not interrupting, not reacting visibly, filing each piece as it came and waiting for the full picture before she started assembling it. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Outside, Manila moved past the windows in the layered, dense way of a city that has grown faster than any plan anticipated. Jeepneys painted in colors that had no name, tricycles weaving through gaps that were not quite gaps, towers rising behind neighborhoods that had no business being the shadow of towers. "Villanueva," she said. "Yes," I said. "I have been building a case on Eduardo Villanueva for 6 weeks," she said. I knew he was moving money. I knew the money was foreign and clean on the surface and wrong underneath. I did not know. She paused, a precise pause, the kind that comes before a sentence you're selecting carefully. I did not know it was this. Now you do, Sarah said. Now I do, Reyes agreed. She looked out the window for a moment. Villanueva is not a violent man. He is a careful man who made a decision about money and has been living with it. But the people who use him are violent, I said. Are connected, she said. In Manila, connected sometimes means the same thing. She turned back to us. He has a meeting scheduled for tomorrow evening, the financial review. He meets with a representative of one of the Meridian entities every 2 months to reconcile accounts. The representative is due in from Hong Kong. Tomorrow, Sarah said, if we move on Villanueva before the meeting, the representative does not come, and we lose the connection to the Hong Kong operation, Reyes said. If we move on Villanueva at the meeting, we get both, I said. If it goes cleanly, Reyes said, in the tone of a woman who had seen many things not go cleanly. There are variables I cannot control. The representative may bring security. Villanueva may warn him. The meeting location changes. She paused. I have 6 agents I trust completely. That is not a large number for an operation of this kind. We work with what we have, I said. She looked at me with the measuring expression of someone deciding whether that was pragmatism or recklessness. Apparently, she decided it was acceptable. Yes, she said, we do. Miles called at 10 p.m., which was 9 a.m. in Culver City, which meant he had been up all night tracking something. Okay, so the representative from Hong Kong. He said, no preamble. Her name is Constance, 44, Taiwanese-Canadian, financial consultant. She has a very clean profile, legitimate clients, tax filings, professional association memberships. The kind of clean that takes effort to maintain. She has been in Pemberton's network how long? I said, as near as I can tell, she has been a regional financial coordinator for the Asian Chrysalis operations since before Seoul. Miles said, she is the one who designed the layering system. The reason it took me 3 weeks to trace the Manila connection is because she built the obfuscation architecture, and it is genuinely impressive. 12 layers of transactions through 6 different jurisdictions. If the Bangkok operation had not loosened one specific thread, I would still be trying to find the end of it. She is good, Frank. She is the best financial cover operation I have seen in this whole network, which makes her the most valuable person we can put in a room with Reyes' agents. Or the most dangerous, Sarah said. She was on the other end of the hotel room with her notebook, having been listening since the first sentence. Both. Miles said, simultaneously, she will know within seconds if something feels wrong about the meeting. She will have an exit plan, possibly more than one. Then we make sure nothing feels wrong until it's too late to exit, I said. There is one more thing. Miles said, I have been looking at the Chrysalis records from the Tanaka documentation, the communications Dr. Tanaka kept. There are several financial authorization documents that reference a Manila-based account. On 2 of them, the approval signature in the routing chain is Constance, Frank, her signature is on documents that authorize fund transfers for the Fujisawa research program. She did not just move money. She approved a specific allocation for the facility where 17 people were held. I was quiet for a moment. She knew what she was paying for, Sarah said. Not a question. She knew exactly what she was paying for. Miles confirmed. Send everything to Torres and Reyes, I said. All of it. I want Reyes walking into tomorrow with everything she needs to make this stick. Already uploading. Miles said, there was a particular sound of a keyboard being used by someone who had been at this for 36 hours and was not going to stop. Frank, the Hong Kong operation, is that next? After Manila, I said, right. Miles said, go get some sleep. I will be here. He always was. The meeting location was a private dining room on the 23rd floor of a business hotel in Makati, the financial district that sat at the center of Manila like a different city entirely. Glass towers and air-conditioned walkways, and particular atmosphere of money that had decided it deserved its own neighborhood. Reyes briefed her team at 6 p.m. in a hotel conference room 3 blocks away. 6 agents, all in civilian clothes, all with the quiet, organized focus of people who had done this kind of thing before and knew that the preparation was the part that mattered. She walked him through the layout, the entry points, the positions, the timing. She was precise and methodical, and did not use a word she did not need, which was a mark of someone who had given enough briefings to know that the things you leave out are usually the things that cause problems. Villanueva arrives at 7, she said. He always arrives first. It is a habit. He does not like being made to wait, because it makes him feel like a subordinate. Ye arrives at 7:30. She also always arrives on time. The meeting typically runs 90 minutes. She paused. We move at 8:15. The accounts review will be complete. They will be in the reconciliation phase. Documents on the table, attention on the numbers. That is when people are most distracted. Security for Ye? Sarah asked. She travels with one personal security contractor. Reyes said. He will be in the hallway outside the private dining room. We handle him first. She looked at the room. Non-violently, if possible. He is hired help and not our target. She paused again. Murray, you and your wife will be in the hotel bar on the 22nd floor. You are not part of the operation. You are not to enter the dining room under any circumstances. Understood, I said. Reyes looked at me with the expression of someone who had also briefed people who said understood and then did not follow instructions. I mean it, she said. So do I said. Sarah touched my arm briefly, which was her way of confirming. Yes, we mean it, and yes, you should probably mean it more than you currently do. The bar, I said. 22nd floor. We will be there. The bar on the 22nd floor of the Grand Meridian Business Hotel. And yes, the naming coincidence was not lost on me. Though the hotel had no connection to Pemberton's entities, Meridian was one of those words that attached itself to aspirational commercial properties, like moss to stone, had floor-to-ceiling windows that looked north over the Makati skyline toward the bay. The lights of Manila spread in every direction to the horizon, denser and more chaotic than Tokyo's orderly grid, organized by different logic. The logic of a city that had been built and rebuilt, and built again around people who were going to live there regardless of whether the infrastructure was ready for them. Sarah had ordered sparkling water. I had ordered coffee, which the bartender had looked at with a mild skepticism of a professional who recognized someone using caffeine as a substitute for the thing they actually wanted. The thing I actually wanted was to be on the 23rd floor. She told you to stay here, Sarah said, without looking up from her phone. I know that, I said. You have the expression, she said. I do not have an expression, I said. You have the expression that says you are calculating whether there's a reason to go upstairs that Reyes would not consider interference. Sarah said, There is not. Drink your coffee. I drank my coffee. At 7:02, Reyes sent a 2-word text. Villanueva in. At 7:31, Ye arrived. Security contractor confirmed. 1. At 8:07, both still in meeting. Documents visible through glass door insert. Proceeding. Then nothing for 8 minutes. 8 minutes is not a long time in most contexts. In the context of a law enforcement operation, going quiet mid-execution, it is approximately a geological age. At 8:15, my phone rang. Reyes, there's a problem, she said. Her voice was steady in the way that trained professionals' voices are steady when something has gone wrong, and they are managing it. He has a phone. She made a call in the first 5 minutes of the meeting, before my team was in position on the floor. I do not know who she called or what she said. You think she was tipped? I said. I do not know, Reyes said. She may have had a standard check-in protocol. She may have been warned. Either way, she was in contact with someone outside this room in the last 40 minutes. A pause. We are moving now, but if she warned someone... Her exit plan accelerates, I said. Yes, Reyes said. Murray, the service corridor on 23. It connects to a freight elevator that goes directly to the parking structure if she runs. I am already up, I said. Sarah was already standing. She had the look that meant she had been 2 steps ahead of this particular situation for the last 20 minutes, and was politely not saying so. Service corridor, she said. Service corridor, I confirmed. The freight elevator on the 22nd floor required a key card, which we did not have, which many took the stairs. 1 flight up, the door to the 23rd floor service corridor opening onto a space that smelled of linen and industrial cleaner and was lit in the flat, functional white spaces that existed for utility rather than impression. We heard the commotion from the main corridor before we saw anything. Voices raised, the sharp command of Reyes' agents conducting the entry, the particular controlled urgency that sounds different from chaos if you have heard enough of both to know the difference. Then a door opened at the far end of the service corridor. Constance, yet was smaller than her file photograph had suggested, compact, somewhere between 40 and 50, in a dark blazer and heels she was apparently comfortable running in, which told me something about her preparation. She had a laptop bag slung across one shoulder, and she was moving with the focused speed of someone executing a plan she had memorized. She saw us at the same moment we saw her. The corridor was approximately 30 meters long. She was at one end. We were at the other. The freight elevator was 15 meters behind her. She stopped. The calculation she was running was visible in her face. The same calculation that anyone in her position would run. The rapid assessment of angles and options, and whether the two people blocking the corridor were a problem she could go through, or around, or past. Sarah stepped forward. NBI, you need to stop where you are. Sarah is not an NBI agent. She is an LAPD detective with no jurisdiction in the Philippines. But she said it with the particular authority of someone who has spent 20 years in law enforcement, and authority, in corridors like this one, is mostly a matter of conviction. Yes, calculations shifted. She turned back. Reyes was there, two agents behind her, moving through the service door at the corridor's other end. Constance, yeah, Reyes said, in a voice that had no room in it for outcomes other than the one she intended. National Bureau of Investigation. You are under arrest. Yet looked at Reyes. She looked back at us. She looked at the laptop bag over her shoulder, which I suspected contained the financial documentation that was about to make the next several months of her life extremely difficult. Then she set the bag down on the floor of the service corridor very carefully and put her hands up. I want to speak with a lawyer, she said. Her English was precise and unaccented in the way of someone who had learned it as a professional tool and used it that way. Before I say anything else, I want to speak with a lawyer. That is your right, Reyes said, still moving forward. You will have that opportunity. She cuffed her with the efficiency of long practice and looked back at us over Yes' shoulder. I nodded. Reyes' expression did not change, but there was something in her eyes that had not been there in the car from the airport. The particular quality of a person who has been building towards something for 6 weeks and has just watched it complete itself in a service corridor on a Tuesday evening. Eduardo Villanueva sat in an NBI interview room and cried for 20 minutes before he said a coherent sentence. I was not in the room. Reyes was, with her best interview agent, a quiet man named Bernardo, who had the gift of making silence feel like a space you were invited to fill rather than a pressure you were required to resist. I watched through the glass and waited. Villanueva was 51, heavy-set, with the particular exhaustion of someone who had been carrying something too heavy for too long. He had a family, 3 children, a wife who ran a small catering business in Quezon City, a mother in Cebu. He sent money to every month. I knew this because Miles had put together a thorough background, and because Reyes had shared it with the economy of a professional who understood that knowing who someone was helped you understand what they would do. He had not gone into this willingly. That was the picture Miles had assembled, and it was confirmed in pieces over the 2 hours of the interview. 3 years ago, a business opportunity. A financial services client with international reach who paid well and asked clean-looking questions. Then, gradually, the nature of the transactions had changed. The explanations had gotten vaguer. The fees had gotten larger. And by the time Villanueva had understood what the money was for, he had understood something else too, that the people he was working for did not allow exits. He had not known about the research programs. He had known the money was wrong, and had made himself not ask what wrong meant. That was the thing that had kept him moving for 2.5 years, the very deliberate practice of not asking questions. It was also the thing that was going to find how a judge looked at his culpability, which Reyes had explained to him, quietly and clearly, in the first coherent conversation after crying. He will cooperate fully, she told us afterward, in the corridor outside. He has been waiting for this. Not the arrest, Nobody waits for the arrest, but the exit. He has been waiting for someone to give him a way out that did not require him to disappear his family. What does he have? Sarah asked. 2.5 years of transaction records. Reyes said. Every account he processed, every routing instruction, every payment confirmation. He kept copies, encrypted on a drive in a safety deposit box in a bank in BGC. She paused. He says he kept them for the same reason Tanaka kept his records. Insurance. They all kept records. I said. People who know they are trapped always do, Reyes said. They cannot go to the authorities. They cannot leave, but they can keep evidence, and they can tell themselves that someday the evidence will matter. She paused. Today it matters. Sarah looked at me. Constance, yeah, I said. The laptop. Our technical team is working through it now. Reyes said. If it contains what I believe it contains. It contains a financial architecture for the entire Asian operation, Sarah said. Then yes, Reyes said. We would have a comprehensive picture of how Chrysalis moved money across 6 countries for 3 years. She looked at us both. Combined with what Torres has from Seoul and Tokyo, and what Singapore has from the Pacific Meridian. It is the financial spine of the whole network. I said, that is what I am cautiously hoping. Reyes said. She said it with such precise economy that I almost smiled. Torres had gotten to her. Torres called the next morning. I have been on calls for 4 hours, he said, with Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, and now Manila for jurisdictions. 5 sets of attorneys, government attorneys, which is its own particular category of difficulty. Frank, the laptop. Tell me, I said. The NBI technical team finished a preliminary review at 2 a.m. Manila time. Torres said, the laptop contains what Reyes hoped it contained. Financial records, transaction logs, communication threads. 4 months of operational correspondence, encrypted, but the encryption was keyed to her biometrics, and she unlocked it before the arrest, apparently by habit. Frank, there are payment authorizations on that laptop for 8 separate Chrysalis satellite operations. Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, and 5 others, 2 of which we did not know about. Where? I said, New Delhi and Zurich. Torres said, both appear to be in early operational stages. New Delhi looks like it may be further along. We are pulling the threads. Miles is on it. Miles is always on it, I said. He told me to tell you that he finished 2 energy drinks and a bag of whatever chips Culver City convenience stores carry at 3 a.m., and that the trail in New Delhi goes through a wellness company that he will have fully mapped within 6 hours. Torres paused. I assume that means he expects you to be on a flight shortly thereafter. Shortly thereafter, I agreed. Sarah was in the bathroom, getting ready for a second debrief with Reyes. I heard the water running. The particular sounds a hotel room morning that had become familiar over the months of this, the sameness of spaces that were different cities, the continuity of the 2 of us moving through all of them together. Torres, I said. Pemberton. Where are we? The kind Torres used when he was choosing his words with particular care. The extradition proceedings are moving. Japan has the strongest case. The Tanaka documentation, his personal signature on criminal directives. The Korean charges are solid. Singapore has added charges from the Pacific Meridian seizure. He paused again. His attorneys have filed 4 separate motions in Korean court and 2 in Japanese court. All have been denied or deferred. The legal situation is, in the phrasing of the DOJ attorney who briefed me yesterday, structurally unfavorable to the defendant. That is good, I said. That is better than good, Torres said. It is the first time since Catalina that his legal team has not found a mechanism to create daylight. The financial evidence from Manila, if it holds up to forensic accounting review, closes the last significant gap in the conspiracy case. We can trace the money from Pemberton's personal accounts to the Meridian entities, through Yes clearing operation to every facility we have identified. He stopped. And a few we have not yet, I said. And a few we have not yet, Torres agreed. Which is why you need to be on a flight to New Delhi. A pause that carried the very specific weight of Michael Torres, almost saying something he never said. Frank, what you have built in the last 4 months. Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, Bangkok, Manila. The whole structure what Pemberton built is visible now in a way it was not before. We can see it. We can touch it. We can prove it. I let that sit for a moment. Cautiously optimistic? I said. More optimistic than cautious, he said. And I want you to understand how unusual it is for me to say that. I understood. I hung up. Sarah came out of the bathroom, hair still damp, reading my face the way she always did. New Delhi, I said. She absorbed this. Outside the window, Manila was already fully awake. Traffic visible even at this height, the sound of the city muffled by glass and air conditioning into something almost musical. We did not see any of it, she said. The real Manila. We came in, we did the job, we are leaving. After this, I said. After this, she said. We come back to Manila and eat actual food and walk around without checking for exits. After Portugal, I said. Portugal is after Zurich and London, she said, with the patience of a woman who had learned to maintain a very long list of deferred promises. Portugal is next, I said. It is the next thing. When this case is done. She looked at me with the expression that was 40% belief and 60% choosing proceed, as if it were 100. Call Miles, she said. Tell him we need flights. I called Miles. He had flights. He also had something else. Okay, so I've been looking at the communication threads on Yes Laptop, he said. The operational correspondence from the last 4 months. And there's a thread I want to flag before you get on a plane. Flag it, I said. The correspondence references a protocol called the Endgame Directive. Miles said, it is mentioned in 3 separate messages. The language is careful. Whoever wrote these messages was aware they could be read someday. Same as the Tanaka communications. But the substance is, if Chrysalis leadership determines that the network has been fatally compromised at the executive level, there are specific instructions for what happens to the research programs and the subjects currently enrolled. I was very still. Define what happens to, I said. The language does not specify, Miles said, and his voice had the particular quality of someone choosing not to complete a sentence that he had already completed in his head. But the directive says, no recoverable evidence. Frank, Pemberton is facing charges in 3 countries, and his financial network is collapsing. If his people in the field believe he is not coming back, they execute the Endgame Directive, I said. If they have not already, Miles said, I do not know the trigger conditions. I do not know if a legal team filing motions counts as fatally compromised or if it requires something more definitive. Who has this information? I said, Torres. I am sending it to Torres as we speak. Miles said, and to Nakamura, Shin, Lim, Reyes, everyone. Frank, this changes the timeline on New Delhi. If there's a facility there and someone has decided to execute Endgame, we need to be there before they can, I said. Your flight leaves in 4 hours. Miles said, I already changed it, and I am booking you on a connection that gets you into Delhi 6 hours earlier than the original routing. Of course he had. Miles. Yeah. Good work. A brief pause. The pause of a 26-year-old who was too professional to be obviously pleased, but not quite professional enough to hide it entirely. Get on the plane, Frank, he said. I got on the plane. Isabel Reyes met us at the hotel lobby to say goodbye, which I had not expected. She had the slightly compressed energy of someone who was about to spend the next 6 weeks in depositions and legal proceedings, and had already made her peace with it. The Villanueva records, she said. The technical review is going to take weeks. But I wanted you to know, the preliminary findings confirm the full transaction chain. Every payment that went to every Chrysalis facility in the region passed through accounts he processed. It is the most complete financial documentation I have seen in 11 years at the NBI. It will hold, Sarah asked. It will hold, Reyes said. Villanueva is cooperating completely, and Yes Laptop, once the forensic team finishes, will corroborate every figure. She looked at us. Murray. Torres said Frank never quits. Torres said that. I said, whoever said it, she said, with the faintest suggestion of something that was not quite a smile. New Delhi. New Delhi. I confirmed, She shook our hands with the same brisk formality as the airport, but it felt different now. The formality was the same. What was behind it had changed. "When this is over," she said, "and you are in Manila for reasons that have nothing to do with financial crimes, there's a place in Poblacion that makes the best lechon in the city. Ask for the corner table. Tell them Reyes sent you. After this," Sarah said, "after this." Reyes agreed. She walked back into the MBI building, and we walked toward the car. And Manila was exactly what always was around us. Loud and dense and alive in a particular way of cities that have never quite figured out how to be smaller than they are. I thought about the endgame directive on the flight out. I thought about what no recoverable evidence meant in the context of a research program run by people who had already demonstrated what they were capable of. I thought about the 17 people in Fujisawa, the 4 in Seoul, the 23 in Los Angeles, the subjects who had been scheduled for the Pacific Meridian and never boarded because we had been in time. In time was a phrase I kept returning to. Every operation had been a race against the clock that Pemberton's people were also watching. Every time we found a facility, the question was whether we were in time. We had been, so far. New Delhi was going to be the test of whether so far had a limit. The lights of Manila fell away beneath the clouds, and the South China Sea spread out below us in darkness. And Sarah was already asleep in the seat beside mine, and I watched the dark water for a while, and then closed my eyes and thought about Richard Pemberton sitting in a Korean holding facility with for countries' worth of charges building around him like water rising around a man who believed, for a very long time, that the water would never reach him. It was reaching him. We just had to make sure we finished the job before he found a way to make the water recede. New Delhi, the endgame directive, whatever came next. I did not sleep, but I tried. 16 years in this business, and the one thing I've learned is that the truth doesn't find people. People find the truth, but only if someone keeps looking. If these cases matter to you the way they matter to me, hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, because the next case is already out there, waiting to be solved. New Delhi is coming. The endgame directive is real, and we are not stopping. I'm Frank Murray. I don't quit. Neither should you.